Okay. Hello, everyone. I am doing my presentation on experiential and relationship-oriented therapy and counseling. Okay. So first, I want to start off with a video example of what experiential counseling can be. And I think this is a great example. One of the uses can be art therapy. There's a ton of others, but this is a great example of the way that this is used.
Art therapy, what can you share with us about the images that we're seeing here? So the first example is it's excellent because it shows a person that's coming in with a bipolar disorder and their world was so confusing and chaotic. And you really see this roadmap going every which way, all these arrows pointing in different directions. But through the art therapy process, through the creative process, we were able to pinpoint exactly what the current structure was for this person that brought them back into treatment and talk about those. Second one too is somebody who felt like they were very alone. Yeah, so down in the bottom left-hand corner, you see the person that this was done by an adolescent who thought they were all alone in their mood disorder, and then coming into treatment, they found that there were other fish in the sea, and they weren't so alone in their mood disorder. There were other people that struggle with mood disorders. So, what about this one? This is done by a man that received addiction recovery services. And those are the demons on the left-hand side. Those are the demons of his addiction trying to fall into his head at any time possible. If that is the taste triggers, sight triggers, smell triggers, trying to fall into his head. And on the left, or on the other side, is the tools that he learned throughout the recovery process, how to develop support systems, how to express his feelings, getting involved in 12-step programming, making those things a part of his life so that.
And I just thought that was a great example because it shows, what this process can really be like. And, even implementing those into a group counseling setting, I think would be amazing. Moving on from that, though, the key concepts of experiential and relationship oriented counseling are like relying on the leader of the group to sort of create an environment that will allow members to change and grow. And then a lot of the like underlying work is completed by a lot of the group members, like through that example of art and, music and all these other sorts of ideas, being able to, push into understanding like that mode of thinking and understanding, each other's experiences in the experience that you guys might be sharing together in that setting. And then intrapersonal and interpersonal focus on relationships. So being able to focus on the relationships that one might have, outside of group, as well as, the connections that you make inside of group, and, being able to talk about those. Self-disclosure is one that I saw. It's not necessarily always for a group setting. It can be if it'll help, promote that connection with the members that you have in your group. But self-disclosing like stories and, your own experiences in order to build those connections. And then focusing on, the experience and the emotions that you might be having in that experience. The role of the leader is environmental access for change and growth. So being able to help the members grow in a suitable environment, whether that be, music, art, outdoors, nature, hiking, stuff like that. And then using, the present moment to build off of those emotions and sort of, ground people so that they can describe those emotions to each other. Putting it into practice, again, the environment and the relationship. So like outdoors and hiking and how the outdoors might, help someone and how that makes them feel. And then building a connection with the members. So being able to, have an openness with your members, not necessarily always having to self-disclose, but building those relationships and those connections of, trust and openness and honesty within the group. So as far as multiculturalism and diversity, it was very hard to find articles, and it was hard to like find information about this. a lot of the experiential like focus on multiculturalism was a lot about learning. Um, so, like being aware of others' experiences and, those the relationships that they might have with those experiences, everyone has a different experience alone. Mine will be different from the next person's. And just being aware of that, especially when it comes to the cultural like concepts and like paths, like every culture has different ideations and different experiences with certain things. So just being aware of that, even if you're in that group setting. And then, understanding those inter and intra relationships. And again, once again, how those might look different outside of group counseling, especially for different cultures. And then using the dimension of awareness. So being able to be aware of, your own thoughts, being aware of, how the group might be feeling in that setting, being aware of different cultures in that setting and making everyone feel comfortable. And then using games and experiential learning to open up. So if some group members might be having a harder time, or you want the group to kind of have an opportunity to be aware of their own biases and be aware of everything, sort of using, they coin it as games, but using like an activity to understand everyone's learning. I know personally my school used to use like a line, and then they'd read off a list focusing on other people's experiences, and you would take a step forward or take a step back, and then you're able to like look at where everyone is in the line compared to you, and then you can have a good like conversation about that. That's really good outdoors because there's a lot of space, and it allows everyone to be present in that environment and have a good look around at what people might be going through, if that's something that the counselor wants to do. Strengths and weaknesses. As far as strengths and weaknesses, it was really hard to find these as well. I could not find a lot of articles focused on experiential and relationship oriented therapy and counseling, especially group wise. Some of the strengths and weaknesses that I found personally would be like allowing for new experiences, especially that music, art, outdoor, and the fact that there is something for everyone, quite literally. Like there's a ton of experiences that one can go through. There's something for everyone. Finding a good fit for that person in an experience, and like helping them go through that, especially like if the whole group is really into that thing like hiking or being outdoors, and how that might help everyone and their experiences with each other and themselves, as well as the counselor, really pushing those relationships as well. As far as what I found for the like demographics, a lot of what I saw was like younger children and adolescents, those going through substance abuse, and really, like being out in an outdoor environment and how that environment helps combat that, as well as like couples and, getting that outdoor air and, doing something new like music and art. As far as weaknesses that I could see, like maybe someone does just want to sit down and talk, not necessarily just going outdoors and doing all those new experiences. Maybe someone does just want to sit down and talk, because a lot of it is focused around those new opportunities, new experiences, new connections. And then to the case example. So how I saw that it could conceptualize Joe issues is due to the way he talks, such as, he opens with, "I'm here to see if anything could possibly help me." And it seems that, he's had those bad experiences with those groups and, related around like therapy and counseling. And, just those past experiences and the connections that it sort of established, and those emotions that it established in Joe, and how those have influenced his emotions in the group now, and the way he is viewing and bringing himself into the present moment in the group. And then those relationships that you can see with Anna and Kyle, he kind of pushed those into a rocky area, so now needing to sort of revisit that at the next opportunity, especially since Anna and Kyle say that they're not going to be their next group. So just being able to reestablish that in the group and, get down deep in those connections, and especially with Joe, like outside of group, being able to, establish those connections and sort of talk about what might be going on. Directing, thinking about it, there will be a lot of redirection, especially when it comes to Joe's abilities of trying to interrupt others and the rudeness or bluntness that comes off when he's interrupting others, and having to redirect and allowing the quieter members to speak. So just Kyle, and like we tried to do with Kyle, allowing self-disclosure like outside of the group. So maybe like talking to him one-on-one and, allowing for that connection. Maybe just he needs, one-on-one with me for, just talking outside of group for a little bit, or, regulating the emotions and thoughts that he might feel inside of group. And then again, the relatedness to other members, and just being able to relate what he's feeling back to another person to allow that connection. Maybe it seems like he didn't really want to do that connecting with Kyle because he had other things going on in his mind and he would talk on and on. But allowing to relate to other members to sort of tie that connection and that experience. And again, using the present moment to step into the experiences and the emotion surrounding it. So allowing, that group to feel what they do, and maybe bringing it up to talk about it and talking about, what's going on right now, how everyone is feeling, how, everyone might be feeling about this past session and those emotions that came into it, and what needs to change to, allow everyone to have that connection and have that intra, personal relationship, and building that trust and, that connection in the experience of group itself together. And maybe, talking about other experiences that might help the group, sort of grow and build, and establishing that environment for growing and changing. As far as techniques, I had a harder time finding this as well, but two that I saw actually that might help is relational interventions. So helping build the relationships with other group members, and, being able to establish those and help Joe establish those, maybe strengthening the trust in the group relationship. So, allowing Joe to open up, and maybe not as much as he did, but, sort of allowing Joe to be able to trust the other members in the group, and the other members in the group to maybe trust and listen to Joe. And then strengthening those outside relationships. So, maybe those peer connections or those group connections, and maybe his own connections with others, and maybe he feels like he's not heard. And so helping establish those outside of the experience as well. And then the other that I saw would be cognitive behavioral techniques and working on relationship building and the way that one thinks of that, and, being able to help in those different relationships establish the way of thinking that you might want to use. And those are my references. Thank you.